You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting us share your day whenever you're listening to this. We really appreciate it. My name is Jerry Mitchell, your host for Give God 90. Sitting in her supervisor's chair is Myra.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight.
If you haven't been there lately, you might want to check out the website. There's all kinds of good stuff there. More on that later. If you like what you hear, we appreciate it when you hit those share buttons. It really helps us a lot. The notifications help too. If you'd like to comment on what you hear, you can do that if you have the free Spreaker app. The chat room's open if you're listening live, so we can see your feedback right away. If you listen to this later, I get notified that somebody left me a comment, and I get to go back in and look, and some of you have left some really, really nice things. We appreciate that as well. We're having some weather here tonight, so hopefully we'll get through this without any interruptions, but just a warning.
Some bad weather.
Yeah, we had
Thunder, lightning.
pretty nasty lightning storm go through a few minutes ago, so hopefully everything will continue to work properly. So I'm going to jump right in to what I want to talk about tonight. Now, the title, Noah's a prepper. Well, yeah, he was, but we're gonna take a different view of this, just a little bit. So, are you ready? No, really, are you ready? Are you prepared for whatever your Creator might ask you to do? That question, it might give some the idea that he's going to ask us to do something great. He's going to ask us to do something exciting, and sometimes he does. Sometimes he says, leave your parents' house and go where I show you. Sometimes he says, I need you to build me a great big boat. But more often than not, he asks us to do something else. He says, are you ready to go through some agonizing times? Are you ready to have some trouble so that you can show the people around you how believers should really respond to their adversity? When the Creator spoke to Abram, he was still in Terah's house. Do you think Abram was ready to leave? That can be kind of a scary thing when somebody says, I need you to go over here. It's one thing when you're looking forward to taking a job maybe in a different city, maybe going to school in a new town. That's exciting, right? But when somebody says, and this is somebody you can't see, says, I need you to cross that river and go where I direct you. Do you think he was ready? Yeah, we can read about Moses in Exodus chapter 3. Moses didn't think he was ready to go back to Egypt. Not at all. In fact, he didn't want to. He said, wait a minute, can't you find somebody else? Well, not exactly in those words, but if you read it, you can see that. We can also read that Samuel wasn't ready. When we read in 1 Samuel, Samuel obeyed the Creator, but in chapter 3, verse 7, it says that Samuel didn't know the Creator because he hadn't spoken to him yet. Now, the Creator hadn't spoken to Samuel yet. Samuel had probably been taught to pray, but he had not heard the voice of his Creator yet. And in that story, he thought it was Eli who was calling him. Well, Samuel was really ready, but he just didn't know he was ready. He had been preparing, but he didn't realize that he had been preparing. Noah was ready, and he didn't realize he was ready, because Noah had displayed grace, and the Creator had noticed it. And when the time came, the Almighty spoke to Noah, and Myra's going to read a little bit of that.
People on earth did what God said was evil. Violence was everywhere. And God saw this evil, and all people on earth did only evil. So God said to Noah, people have made the earth full of violence, so I will destroy all the people from the earth. Build a boat of cypress wood for yourself. Make rooms in it and cover it inside and out with tar. This is how big I want you to build the boat. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. Make an opening around the top of the boat. Make it 18 inches high from the edge of the roof down. Put a door in the side of the boat. Make an upper, middle, and lower deck in it. I will bring a flood of water on the earth. I will destroy all living things that live under the sky. This includes everything that has the breath of life. Everything on earth will die, but I will make an agreement with you. Your sons and your wife. Sorry, lost track. And your sons' wives will all go into the boat. Also, you must bring into the boat 2 of every living thing, male and female. Keep them alive with you. There will be 2 of every kind of bird, animal, and crawling thing. They will come to you to be kept alive. Also, gather some of every kind of food, stored on the boat as food for you and the animals. Noah did everything God commanded him. Genesis 6:11 through 22.
Now, what we don't think about a lot in this lesson was there was a lot more to it than just simply building an ark. And I say that like that was an easy chore, right? The years following this conversation between the Almighty and Noah were filled with Noah preparing for the destruction of the earth. He actually spent a very long time building the ark, but he also needed to have provisions for the animals and his family while they were aboard. And that meant he needed to grow grain, cut hay, preserve food, and everything else that would be necessary to provide for everyone and everything on the ark. And all this time, Noah, was preparing for a day when the Creator would destroy a very important part of his creation. And all the while, the people watched him. They watched what was happening. They watched what he was doing. They saw what he was doing. Now, the tradition is that the people mocked Noah. The problem is that can't be found anywhere in the Bible. That's just a tradition. There's another tradition that some people wanted in the ark when it began to rain, but that's not in the Bible either. Can't find it. It's not there. Isn't that amazing how we just have these pictures in our minds that people were standing around making fun of Noah? But it's not in the Bible. You just can't find it. I think even Answers in Genesis has a mock-up of that at their Ark Encounter. A few years ago, there were some TV shows in the United States. I don't know if they were worldwide or not, but they were actually devoted to people who were being what they call preppers, preparing for the worst, right? And some of those shows followed people as they gathered food, they learned to forage, They learned how to do different things. Something as easy as building a fire that a lot of people take for granted is something that, well, just isn't taught in the United States that much anymore. You don't have to build a fire that much, right? You just flip a switch and you have fire. That's the generation we have today. But other shows were more about people building underground bunkers, storing provisions so they could hide or escape whatever calamity that they thought was going to destroy civilization as we know it. And many, many believers got caught up in this prepping obsession as well. Some felt as if they needed to hide. There was talk about fellowships needing to go underground or meet covertly. You see, they didn't want anybody knowing that they were believers. Now, I need to be careful, okay, because while being prepared is a theme that we find throughout the Bible, and we need to take that seriously. And I'm making a little bit of fun out of some of the shows that were on TV. Hiding is not a concept we find in the Bible. Okay? Noah was actually doing something that later Isaiah would talk about. And Meyer's going to read this. See if you can find where he's saying what Noah was doing.
Your God says, "Comfort, comfort my people. Speak kindly to the people of Jerusalem. Tell them that their time of service is finished. Tell them that they have paid for their sins. Tell them that the Lord has punished Jerusalem twice for every sin they did. This is the voice of a man who calls out, 'Prepare in the desert the way of the Lord. Make the road in the dry land straight for our God.' Every valley should be raised up, every mountain and hill should be made flat. The rough ground should be made level, the rough ground should be made smooth. Then the glory of the Lord will be shown. All people together will see it. The Lord himself said these things." Isaiah 40:1-5.
Noah was a voice crying in the wilderness. He wasn't hiding anything. His work was out in the open. Now, we have been to the Answers in Genesis Ark Encounter in Kentucky. It's a reproduction, if you're not familiar with it, it's a reproduction of the Ark, full size. It's built as close to biblical specifications as possible. And the first thing you notice when you see it is gigantic. I mean, this is a big boat. This thing, it's not going to put some of the cruise ships we have today, to shame. But it's big. It's like a football field and a half long, and the width of a football field tall. It's a big thing. Now, the people saw this, right? But we have to remember that at the time of Noah was building the ark, the Garden of Eden was still being guarded by the cherubim from Genesis 3:24. It says, man, he drove out man and placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim, more than one, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So Noah was building this ark, right? People could see it. The people now at the time Noah was building the ark, it was less than 2,000 years after creation. So about from the time of Yeshua to the time of now, not as much time has passed. These folks could have gone, had they were brave enough, to see the cherubim. They could look out and see them guarding the gate, guarding the way to the tree of life. Isn't it amazing that even with Noah building the ark, even with the cherubim standing there on guard duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that the people still refused to repent and change their evil ways? With everything still what should have been reasonably fresh in their minds as compared to the age of the earth now, these things should have said, wait a minute, maybe, just maybe, we should be more like Noah. But they didn't. They weren't. They just kept doing what they were doing. But still, Noah continued to prepare. He didn't hide anything. There was no need to. Noah wasn't preparing for his own survival, and he understood that. He had no selfish reasons to prepare. Grace had been seen in Noah by the Almighty. Noah's actions were his voice calling out, clearly on display for everybody around him to see. But the people refused to give up their selfish ways. But Noah, he just kept preparing. And what he was preparing for was the Creator to have his way. He was preparing to make the mountains come down. He was preparing to make a flat place. Water seeks its own level, right? If you have still water, it's going to be flat. And it's going to be smooth. He wasn't preparing for Noah's way. He wasn't preparing for anyone else's way. He understood that things were going to be done exactly as the Creator had asked him to do it. Now, hopefully, this brings a question to the minds of everyone out there listening. What is the Creator asking you to do? Is He asking you to prepare for something? Is He asking you to prepare the world to have things done the Creator's way? For us, it's tempting to show people how to live the way we're designed to live. We attempt to do that in such a way that people see us and see what we get in return and want to do it, right? That's the idea. That's what we're designed to do. Now, Myra and I try to do that by offering you folks out there who listen to us, ways to be able to apply biblical concepts and lessons to your lives today. We know people who are working on various projects that help people understand they can believe what's written in the Bible is true. We know some people who simply live their lives as an example to the people around them. We know people who promote life by volunteering at anti-abortion places, others who help the widows and the fatherless, still others, they feed the needy or offer to care for those in need. That some people gather personal items to hand out to people who need it. But unfortunately, we know a few churches, too many churches, that simply sit back and expect people to come to them. Now, they're expecting people to come to them. They're not looking for people to come to the Creator. They expect people to come to their church. They want people to accept that their way is the best way to get into heaven. That's what they're selling. They're not selling the Creator's way. They're selling their way. They're selling their doctrine. They're selling their traditions. And yes, they're selling it because it costs you every time you walk in the door. What the modern church really should be doing is getting back to the most basic and fundamental foundation of the faith. In the beginning God. Now, while the denominational churches are complaining that no one is attending their churches anymore, their numbers are dwindling. There's Bible study groups, fellowships. I know several fellowships that meet by Zoom, some once a week, some every other week, some every day. Those things are growing. The number of people seeking the sacred word of the Almighty is growing. One of our listeners in Africa sent me a picture the other day of people gathered to hear the sacred word of the Creator. And they were packed into a small building with no air conditioning. In that part of Africa right now, it's hot. Okay? It's hot. And you could tell it was hot. But there they were. They weren't there to be entertained. They were there to learn what their Creator expects out of them, who He is, what He expects, because they understand that He has the power to change their lives. Somebody else sent me a picture not long ago of another group of people. They were gathered around a table listening on a phone, and there was about 20 people gathered around this table listening on this phone, and it happened to be one of our podcasts. Now, they were outside in the shade because it was hot, right? This wasn't a formal setting. They were just gathered around there outside doing their thing. And it amazes me that there are people in the world who are willing to go through that when there are so many people in the United States who, oh, well, I can't go to work today because it's too hot. I can't go to work today because it's too cold. No, I can't, sorry, neighbor, I know you're out of medicine, but I can't take you to the drugstore to get your medicine because, I've got other things to do. Now, sometimes that's a legitimate reason. Sometimes, the other things they want to do, is just not that important. I know I'm not that entertaining, and I don't try to be. I try to be informative, and hopefully it makes a difference out there for somebody. I know it's made a difference for a few people. But maybe it's time to think outside the traditions and outside the legends and get back to actually teaching. Can we just teach the Creator? Can we just teach God? Can we just teach what's in the Bible and the way He designed us to live? Are you prepared for that? Are you getting ready for our Creator to do something in your life? Not everybody can be like Abraham. Not everybody can be like Noah. Not everybody can be like Moses. And quite thankfully, not everyone has to be like Job. Job went through a lot to display his faith and defeat the enemy. But we all do have our own unique talents, our own unique skills. Each one of us can prepare our little corner of the world for the Creator to have His way. Now, not everybody needs a podcast. Not everybody needs a building to gather in. Not everybody needs a large congregation of people. But everyone is able to be a positive influence on the people around them. When we learn to speak life in a place of death, when we learn to speak with the Spirit of our Creator instead of some unholy spirit, things change for the better. When we understand that we can offer hope instead of weakness, things change. So are you ready? Or do you need to prepare? Now, if you need to figure some things out and learn to live the way the Creator designed you to live, go ahead, givegod90.com. It's there. It's free. Now, I used to call it a challenge. Can you do this? somebody pointed out to me that it's more of a course. And it walks you through the steps to improve your life by doing nothing other than learning to allow the Creator to have His way in your life. And it's something you can actually start today. Now, you don't want to rush through this. It's not something you can do. You can read it in a short time, but it's not something you can apply to your life one time right away. You didn't get where you are overnight. And chances are you're not going to get to where you want to go overnight either. But with small changes that you can make every day that don't add time to an already busy schedule, it's possible for you to improve your life. It's possible for you to prepare in such a way that no matter what the Almighty asks you to do, you will be ready. Now, is He going to ask you to build an ark? I don't know. Do you already know how to use a hammer and a saw? Is He going to ask you to take a trip? I don't know. Have you been preparing the necessary things to do that? Is He going to ask you to go back and set somebody free? I don't know. Are you ready? Is He going to ask you to suffer? Chances are a little better than asking you to build an ark. Is He going to ask you to go through some tough times? Chances of that are a little better than asking you to take a trip. Because where you are, the people around you have already been looking at you. And if they start to see some things changing in your life, well, that's going to be your witness. That's going to be your example. And they're going to notice it. They're going to see it. They're going to understand it. And hopefully, they're going to want it. I often say, they're going to want what you already got. And it's okay, because you can share. Right? It's free to share. You can do that. Not a problem. All you have to do is be prepared. Did you have anything you wanted to add to all of that?
Are you prepared? Thank you, everybody, for listening to us tonight. We will see you on Monday.
Absolutely. Until Monday, many, many blessings, everyone.